I totally see why you can't clap. It's cold as shit in here. I'm watching my hands disappear as we're doing this. I'm thinking about this. I'm like, I totally get it.
According to all the calculators online, we need 1.8 tons of cooling and heating capacity in here. That is 2. Well,
it's just working now.
Half.
It's just working now.
We have 4.5 tons of heating in here and a 102-inch fan,
right.
And it's still cold.
It's fascinating.
You should have seen what it was like in here without.
Yeah.
It would have been 48.
I bet.
Yeah.
No exaggeration.
Yeah.
Makes sense. No, I have much more sympathy now towards the...
Derek couldn't clap in the fucking summer. He's clapless. He's Derek Clapton. Clapless. Yeah, no, God. And this is another episode of the Carmudgeon Show. My name is Jason Clap Cammisa. That is Derek Clapless -Scott. And that thing is one Nicholas PQ Mercadante IV.
Sure, we'll go with that. PQ.
We have a special guest today.
Yes.
Who is from
034 Motorsports.
Oh, I thought he was going to say Earth. He's a human.
I'm uninterested.
Nominally.
Yes.
You're uninterested or uninteresting?
I'm uninteresting.
You can't tell them that. This is the intro.
Oh, shit.
There we go. And he curses. Thank God we have a guest on the show that curses. Nick is a friend of ours. He tends to encourage bad behavior, both for his customers at 034, yes, plus us, has been responsible for modifications, for sort of drug pushing the modifications that we've done on our...
both of your... Yeah.
Volkswagen products.
And he brought one of the coolest Audis of all time in the background that we'll talk about. On this, the 100th episode of the Carmudgeon Show, brought to you by the Haggerty Podcast Network and Derek's.
Brought to you by part of... And I will now clap.
Can you please do better than
Not
that?
bad. I mean, honestly. Oh, that was bad. No, I don't like that.
No. We need bass.
Okay.
Derek?
Nope. That's it for me.
It's the temperature.
Okay,
it's the density altitude. I need it for the K truck and I need it for clapping.
He needs forced induction to compensate. Will you tell the audience though that it's not a joke? He just sucks at clapping.
There's opportunities for improvement.
Like every Audi.
Okay, this is the difference between New York and California. He sucks. There are opportunities for improvement. Sorry, Derek. I said there are opportunities for improvement in New York. That's what I meant. I said I didn't mean to insult you.
You are still very you are measured in your criticisms when you think it could impact your ability to get manufactured cars in the future.
Yeah, some engineer from AMG just asked me for my unfiltered opinion on C63 AMG and wants to know when I'm going to publish the Cammisa verdict on it. Because they want that to feed back into the people who made the terrible decisions to make that car suck. And he's like, why aren't you doing it? I'm like, I would like to have a relationship with Mercedes-Benz, and if those bitches hear what I have to say. So I can be measured.
Well, the important thing is you persist. Anyways.
If I piss off Mercedes by being honest to the point where they never give me a car again, then oh, fuck it.
You've done your job.
Sucks. Yeah, exactly.
If the cars are that bad, do you want another one?
I made it very clear. Do I need to do a point, like a point-by-point listing of what ruined? Everyone knows it. You don't put a four-cylinder in a fucking C63 AMG. You don't put rear-wheel steering on a car and then forget to tune it. My day. All right, we clapped. We're out of here. We're done.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, that's how we're starting the episode. That is very definitely not how we're starting the episode.
That's not only biting the hand that feeds, that's biting it, fucking it, and then shoving a knife through it, burning it, and what else can you do? Putting in a meat grinder. Hello.
A few things.
Yeah. That's the start of the episode out of context. So let the audience figure out what we were just talking about.
They never will.
Probably not. Hopefully not. Hold on. We're glad to have you with us.
Oh my.
I'm John Davis. And
yeah.
Motor Week 25.
There it is.
He's still doing it.
He's still doing it. Yes.
Well, speaking of Motor Week and ancient years, I bet there is an ancient motor. Is there an ancient Motor Week video?
Yes.
About that?
The 2012?
I'm sure somewhere.
We are frankly very disappointed in the Audi 90.
I don't know if it's online.
No,
well, they're continually
releasing.
They're continually releasing them. Did this car, the 90 never came turbocharged for the U.S. market, did it?
No, nor in any market technically under the 90 badge. It was S2.
Yes, the S2.
Right. And then RS2. Right.
Coupe, not a sedan, though, right?
There was a sedan version of the
wagon.
S2 and wagon version of the S2 available
Quite cheap
in Europe.
in the UK.
Okay, so for those of you who aren't watching, you don't know that behind us is one of the incredibly rare U.S. market Audi 90 20-valve Quattro.
Full name.
That is the car that my dad had. So when we moved to Germany, we moved to a Land Cruiser.
With a Land Cruiser.
Well, yes, not in.
Yes.
We moved inside of a Land Cruiser.
I think did you say two? You said moved to a Land Cruiser.
Sorry, we moved to Germany in possession of a Land Cruiser, which arrived dead. With a dead battery in the middle of the street, blocking the street. The police were called because Germany. The taxi driver, or the tow truck driver, was French. My mother spoke neither of any language. The police were German, and they all were screaming at each other until all of a sudden they started laughing together. While this is happening, I was walking home from school, and all of a sudden my dad's Land Cruiser is literally blocking the entire road. And I open the hood, see the battery is not connected, plug the battery in, start it, drive it into the driveway, and I'm like, "Hey, Mom, what's going on? Why are the police here?" Anyway, the first time my parents took it on the Autobahn was the last time it went on the Autobahn. And my dad traded for an Audi 90 20-valve Quattro in that color.
That is a hell of a trade.
Yes.
70
miles an hour for 135.
Not a straight across trade.
No.
Especially in the year of 1990.
This would have been 91.
91.
I can't imagine the Land Cruiser market was bumping in Germany at the time.
He sold the Land Cruiser for what he had paid for it in 1983 or 84. It was in 83. He bought it a year old.
That's the most Toyota truck story
I feel
ever.
like it was like $16,000 worth of marks. So I'd figure, 24,000 marks or something.
Sure.
And I don't think the Audi was that much more. But his had cloth seats and no air conditioning and cranky windows.
RS, the lightweight model.
Lightweight model. And Tresa full width tinted tail and white wheels.
Yeah.
And you now own this U.S. spec car.
Yes, somehow. It was a late night eBay marketplace find where a friend of a friend sends a link and goes, "This has got you written all over it." And very clearly on a Sunday evening at 10 p.m., it was like, oh, it absolutely does.
I'm so glad that you got that and not me.
If
it went to me, I would have done the same thing.
Yes, exactly.
Really?
Yeah, I would. I mean, the idea. I had such a bad experience with my 5-cylinder Audi, and a large portion of that was turbocharging. It might be less problematic if it were naturally aspirated. It would be less problematic.
You'll still have fun with some problems.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm glad that it went to you and not to me.
You missed the part where Nick said on the way here that his voltage dropped and squealing ensued and all kinds of other shit happened and a belt was sideways and whatever. It's just Audi.
Yeah. Well,
but it undid itself. It's good now.
Okay.
Well, the squeal when you started to come in is a little bit
squeal
less than
notwithstanding.
Good. Yeah.
But voltage is fine.
Voltage is fine.
But
just don't turn on a defroster.
Because the alternator is no longer tangled with
the radio turned off. The heat turned off. Exactly.
Oh, it was turning off all unnecessary systems because it was running full loss.
Yes.
Oh no, I had to turn those off. It'll run itself into the ground willingly.
Yeah.
It wants.
I've driven cars that have systematically turned things off to preserve when it runs out of juice.
Okay, fancy. What car is this?
It was a I don't know if it was a designed-in feature. It was just something it was doing. It was a 1992 Range Rover Classic.
Oh no, that's nothing is controlled on those cars, especially electronically.
But it would like all of the peripheral systems started sequentially turning off as the car was
sort of
dying.
Minimum voltage required to turn them
Right.
on. There's capacitors fizzing out in each one.
This is not that smart. It did, however, on the way here, I determined the heated seats, which it has, and crank you.
Of course it does.
6 levels of heating.
Yes.
Only the Germans.
Yes. Only Audi.
Yes, of course.
I think there needs to be more than 2.
Okay.
3 is probably fine.
But there needs to be more than
6 is
6 were somewhere.
substantial.
And 6 will send you into a short orbit. With
that's more than there are types of meat, right? There's raw, there's rare. There's 2 levels of rare, I guess, if you're using the French definition, right? Which is like blue, saignant, which is like rare, and then there's medium and medium well. It's the same number of meat level cooking. So that's really
basically
it doubles.
So I went medium rare for this drive today.
I want my hemorrhoids to be cauterized. That is the sign, especially with cloth seats. Like there's nothing better than knowing There's been a cauterization.
Then turn it to 6. Yeah. So I chose medium rare, but it doesn't have a good way of actually changing between low and high. So what it does is it just runs the relay on off. On off, on off, on off. Maybe it's not supposed to, but this one does. And it's not exactly insulated.
And how many hertz does it do that at?
Well, so it would change. It's fascinating. It was pretty. I have a video, and we'll clip it in. It just goes.
Oh, it's like pulse width modulated.
Yeah.
It's an early. It thinks it's a PWM. Exactly.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, how many hertz is it?
I don't think that's on purpose. I think
Probably not. But I sent a video to my other Nick, who's well into Audis, and I was like, what relay is deciding to end its life?
Yeah.
And he goes, it's the heated seat.
So other Nick is friends with our production, because he has given us 2 amazing cars to film with. The first one was his 8.7 trillion horsepower Audi 200 sedan 20 valve turbo quattro.
Yes, the Palestinian limo.
Whatever you want to call it, that thing was fast. And then he also gave me the Ford Probe that I did reverse donut in and broke the axle, and then laughed. Like, what a hero!
Yep.
What an absolute hero.
During the Mustang episode, yeah.
During the Mustang,
and then it was fixed like the next day.
Yeah,
we
we found a
drove it home.
local. We found I think Liv, our producer, somebody found a local shop that was like, oh yeah, I can world pack an axle and we'll have it first thing in tomorrow morning. Nick was like, I genuinely, I keep apologizing to him because he just was laughing the whole time. Like, I don't care. And he's the perfect type of person to borrow a car from, because he's a mechanic. Basically, he works on stuff. So he understands. I didn't hurt the soul of his Ford Probe, but I did snap an axle.
Yeah, which, it's out there getting used. That's the best case scenario for a Ford Probe from 1989. Yeah.
Might be one of the very few that is getting used.
So the Audi 90 20 valve Quattro is a Volkswagen, that 5-cylinder is a Volkswagen 1.8 liter 16 valve with 1 cylinder attached.
What is the code of this engine?
7A.
7A. And what does that mean? Or why is that one 7A? And then when it has a turbocharger on it, it's called...
Audi just had
3B with the turbocharger, and then the RS2 is the same engine with the bigger turbo, and it has a different, or the S4.
I think the RS2 got a version of the AAN.
AAN is what the one after. What's the difference between AAN and 3B?
So AAN doesn't have a distributor.
Got it.
Whereas 3B runs a distributor. Right. Correct. That's correct. Okay. But
are they otherwise the same, like architecture, like the cylinder heads?
Almost entirely.
Ports and all that?
Yeah, there's small niggly things here and there, but for the most part, this is the same as an AAN, as a 3B, as a whatever, and can be converted. The 7As don't have a coolant port that's hogged out in 3B and the AANs to cool the heads down for turbocharging, but you can just drill or machine through the side and then add the port, and that's right there.
It's an Audi. It doesn't self-machine with bad tolerance control.
Give it time.
Something. Okay, yeah.
Give it time. Yes.
So we just raced this car versus one car with one fewer of these same cylinders.
Yes. And 2 less driven wheels.
It's my modified Scirocco 16 valve.
Yes.
I was very much looking forward to this because this was a fast car when I was a kid.
Yep.
And this is the first car I ever did 130 miles an hour in, and it was just, it's a monster and it sounds good. I have never won a race like that in my life. Genuinely, I'm like, did he stall? Like,
your car has 50% more power than it originally did.
It makes 170 horsepower now, and so does that. Yeah. So I would have thought
crank to crank. Or is that
crank.
Wheel?
Yeah, no, I wheel 140 in its current configuration.
Yeah, this is like 110 wheel on a good day.
It's a lot of losses for
all 4 wheels.
Yeah,
to be fair.
Well, and I think there are 8 wheels worth of other bearings in there or something. There's 16 wheels worth of diffs. Or it's Audis.
The Torsen is actually just a brake dyno.
Yeah, just try to push one of those things. Like they're amazing. They don't move. Huh. They're like glued to the ground with the force of Ferdinand PX children, of which there are many.
13,
yeah.
Still not enough.
Yes, so that was a fun race.
Yeah, it was amazingly...
It was funny. We were both laughing.
It was impressively slow. And the transmission, again, the previous owner of this vehicle, he bought it brand new in 1990 in Redwood City and drove it for a period of years before giving it to his son, who was not as gentle on the car. So you do need a double clutch between gears, and she'll let you know she's changing gears. You're right, and third and fifth will squeal at you. So in that race, it was a little tough.
It was about completion.
Yes, we made it.
Just make it.
We reached the end.
The crazy thing was the end of that race was basically us going to lunch, and I walk out. This was so wild. So you've had this car, what, 6 months?
Got it in September of 24. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple months. Yeah. I get out of the car at lunch, and I walk around, and I'm like, why do you have black badges in the back? Is it plastadipped? And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's funny because 15 years ago, I did a collectible classic for Automobile Magazine on a 90/20 valve Quattro in this color. And that kid had plastadipped the badges, and it was the first time I'd ever heard of plastidip. And you're like, oh, really? Yeah, I bought this from the original owner. And I'm like, yeah, this guy was a kid. He's like, and then you continued, who gave it to his kid? And I'm like, there's no way, right?
Right.
There's just no way. So we sat at this cafe, and I pull up my OneDrive, and I'm looking through, and I'm like, oh, yeah, here's the car. And you swipe the second picture, you're like, that's the head unit I just pulled out yesterday. And I'm like, yeah, coincidence, whatever. Yep. And then there it is, the picture of the black badges, the black badges, and the license plate.
Yep.
It's the same car.
As the resident California license plate nerd, what plates were on it when you got it?
It was a 2-number.
Fuck, you took off original license plates?
I had to register it in another state.
He doesn't live in California anymore.
Yes, it is not currently residing in the state of California. I do still, however, have the plate.
See, perfect.
You can't put it back on.
You can for a show.
Why not?
Yes, but you can't re-register it on the original plates.
He can get that to whatever sequence it is as a custom plate in Tennessee.
In Tennessee.
In Tennessee, and then put the California plate on it with a sticker that says Tennatucky or whatever is how it's actually pronounced.
That's unrecoverable.
It's so weird. That's a California thing. You people are strange.
Because it's a sign of a car being continuously in California, and that speaks to the quality of its structure.
Look at that thing. There was no quality of the structure to begin with.
It's beautiful. It's structurally lovely. It just doesn't have any clear codes.
This is going to be the episode of the roast that we didn't do when we roasted when we were nice to each other. The fuck is wrong with you for buying this car?
Audis bring us together.
On the side of the road. Hey, call me. Do you have a jumper box?
Here and there. Yeah. No, I was more disappointed to turn in the original title, which was like in 1990, a California title was a super colorful
rainbow. That was rainbow era because they went from pink to the rainbow title, and then the rainbow title phased out probably 20 something years early.
Is that where pink slip comes from?
Yeah, they were originally pink.
Huh.
They were pink until the late 80s. And it's about the size.
Yeah, Jake, we need a graphic over the car right now. With all of us. All right, everyone thumbs up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Perfect. So I had to turn that
pink.
in. Wow. It was very, very sad because.
Did you scan it or?
Yeah, scanned it, took photos of it. It had the whole 9 yards.
I mean, that car is quite the provenance. Yeah. It's the only car that any magazine ever gave a shit about, and that's only because I wanted to drive my dad's car 20 years later.
Right.
I was horrified.
Yeah.
I don't think his car was lowered from the previous owner. All TÜV, all done, properly with German. And immediately when I got in this car, I thought, my dad's car had different tuning on it or a lightened flywheel, because this thing is, it's so deliberate in its revs.
Correct. They numb just about everything they can in this car for the U.S. market, right? We make an aftermarket flywheel for this that's built aluminum. Weighs right around 7
We haven't talked about who we
are. You speaking French?
Right, yes.
To tell us about the flywheel and then tell us.
Yes, weighs 7 pounds, the replacement.
What's the factory one, 30?
It's in that neighborhood.
It feels
it's a large beast.
So you're doing it, right?
At some point. Well, there's the whole, it's going to be turbocharged at some point.
No!
I know.
Why would you do that?
I know.
Because he wants 7.6 trillion horsepower.
There's some of that.
That's $7.7 trillion in repairs that go along with that.
Give or take. Okay. It's a bit anemic in its current state. However, I've grown to really fall in love with that again. So I had a one in college that I bought for $2,000 off of Craigslist, sight unseen, midnight in Seattle as a winter beater, and drove it immediately 4 hours back to Spokane, where I was at the time, and coming over the pass, coming out of Seattle, I drill a cinder block that's in the middle of the road as it was snowing, bend 2 wheels, and it just keeps on trucking the whole way through. I made it home at 4 a.m., turned it off, and it didn't turn back on ever again because the fuel pump died. But got me home.
Okay.
Got me there.
Wouldn't it have been cheaper to just not leave your house in the first place?
Yeah.
Yes, but it wouldn't have been as fun.
But you literally never started the car again.
Literally never started the car. I towed it to a shop the following day, and many repairs ensued. But it was my college car for about a year following that, and sold it to fund.
Wait, did or didn't it run again?
It did run again.
It did, but not
without a
intervention.
lot of help. Correct.
Got it.
Basically, you had to go get student loans to pay for the repair.
Yes, add on to the student loans. Exactly.
I'm going to collateralize these loans with another loan.
Very worth it. Yes. I learned many things about throttle potentiometers and outboard fuel pumps and things of that nature. Yes.
If I think about it, my dad's car was an 88 and we bought it in 91. So it was 3 years old and it never idled properly. Rem. I mean, those.
What kind of fuel injection does it have?
It's Motronic.
So there's an idle control valve that goes underneath. It's all separate. There's a million different separate things put into like 3 inches of an intake tube. And there's two different, there's a Hitachi and then there's a Bosch, and various ones were good or bad.
Yours idles properly.
For the most part. Yeah, she does okay.
And then there was the other thing is it has a hydro bomb, like it's hydraulic brakes.
Correct. It is
and
hydro
steering.
assisted brakes.
And that does that throw up errors continually on your car?
No, it doesn't tell me that it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Yes.
My dad's was the other way around. It always worked, but you'd be driving beep that that high pitched Audi you better pull over sound with the red.
Yes.
And then it would just go away. But you're like, oh, do I not? I'm like, I have brakes. Like you're on an Autobahn, you're going fucking quick.
Yes.
And like, oh, brake failure. Great. Now what? Oh, okay, they work. Fuck it.
Exactly. Which credit to it. It's heavy, but it's light to some degree for what it is.
They're what, 2,900 pounds?
Ish. I think 3,000 for the U.S. trim was just everything. I got everything. But no power assisted brakes, and I've driven it right around 900 miles since purchase, and it's stopped pretty well. Can't really complain.
Stopped right now.
Stopped here. Yeah. Whether it will move again, we'll find out. Yes. So no, I sold my first 90 and to fund an RS6 Avant that I also bought sight unseen, middle of Spokane.
That's
or middle
a C4.
That's 3.
C4.
That is an actual pattern, right?
Yes.
2 is a trend, 3 is a pattern.
Yeah, no, I have a problem. Hi, my name is Nick. I have a problem. And drove that one sight unseen from Washington State back to California. No bumper, because it didn't have one, but I stopped along the way and picked one up. It was incredible.
I think it was a wagon.
Yes, exactly. But I missed the 90 to death for whatever reason. So we as a company, I guess I should...
Now you can introduce it.
Now you can introduce it.
So I am the director of sales and marketing at 034 Motorsport, who make parts for Audis and Volkswagens to make them faster, more reliable.
More sideways
in many instances.
You
correct?
gave me a rear sway bar for my e-Golf, thus
that influences
making my e-Golf the most sideways e-Golf ever.
Yes, that is the point.
Drug pusher.
So we make a bunch of aftermarket components for these cars to make them better.
You want to tell us what 034 means?
034, Derek, how could you?
Do you go O to 60?
No, but I do. My phone numbers.
Not to 60.
Yes, my phone numbers have O's in them.
There it is.
Oh, it's magic.
Oh, I was going to go O'Reilly.
Auto parts. Ow!
Yeah. But that's a West Coast thing.
Is it?
I don't know.
There's O'Reilly.
O'Reilly on the East Coast? Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And does you have the same song?
Yes.
With the ow, the whole thing?
It's the largest of the, triple. AutoZone, O'Reilly, and Napa. Advanced. Napa's tiny. Yeah, it's the largest from like a market cap perspective. Yeah.
Only you would know this.
Well,
okay.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Anyways. 034 is the first 3 digits of the part numbers on old Audi i5s, such as that one. So if you go walk around that car, every factory part number is 034-something, right?
Do you continue to support the 5-cylinder cars?
We do. We've discontinued some products over the years that are just painful. So we started as a company
like
in
the
everything with 034 on it.
Right. Some things are still around, but we started as a company making standalone ECUs for these cars back in 2005. Yeah, this is our 20th anniversary this year.
Wow.
We were the only company to come up with an ECU that could do an odd number of cylinders, basically. There was no standalone that could do odd cylinder counts at the time. So
that's odd.
That's odd, right. It was put an RS2 chip in it, turbo it, and call it a day, right? So we started as a company making these faster, so 034 Motorsport, off of an Audi 80 at the time. So my boss and myself, Javad.
You weren't even born yet.
No, I was alive. I was alive.
Fetal. I mean, diapers.
I was running around.
Pampers. Cruisers.
Ish.
Because you're running around.
I think I was Crocs by then. Yeah, Crocs by then, for sure.
have to make fun of him because he's the youngest guy in the room.
Yeah, I'm 5. Yeah.
You're 5.
No, so my boss and I bought this car together as a sort of homage throwback. So I am not the only one leveraged in bad decision making. I get to drag people in.
Misery loves company.
Yes, he owns the company. He can help support you with parts, which you're going to need.
There's thoughts there.
Big time. Okay.
So we're relaunching a bunch of old products that we used to make for these under 034 Tradition, a sub brand that we're going to.
Oh, that's wonderful news. Cool. I think that's super cool because there's a real problem with if you have a vintage car with sort of support no longer existing.
Right.
I mean, I've now been around long enough to watch a lot of cool stuff just get discontinued and NLA'd for cars, and now there's like demand as they're classics, and it just doesn't exist. And so people are like, holy shit, you have an original pre-merger or Dynon, whatever the shit, and it's worth tons of money. And I think it's neat that people are actually supporting these cars.
Exactly. And the market for a couple of years, these became worthless. So spending any money on a performance part or just a OE replacement upgrade didn't make sense. But nowadays, there's more of a crowd behind them. So, we're bringing back some performance parts, but we're also like, hey, you can't find this sensor anymore to save your life. Let's go ahead and make them. Or these rear ball joints that no longer exist in the state of the world. Shokan used to be the last one you could find them from. But we can, with our manufacturing abilities, bring a lot of that stuff back. So
that's very cool.
We're going to make it by
You're doing
request.
God's work by request.
One crappy Audi at a time. No, people can send a letter like, hey, email. Don't letter. I don't want to.
Dearest sirs.
They can email us.
You have to
say,
spell out 034.
Yes, and if you spell it wrong with an
then
S
they won't
at
make
the
the
end,
part.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Then we won't do it.
But how do you catch them for mispronouncing Audi if they're writing emails? You need to.
I'll let that go.
No.
Money's money.
I bought an Audi. Really? That'd be like working on Porsche.
The majority of our customers call us 034 Motorsports, and we just have to accept that as much as it drives us up the wall.
034.
We did make a shirt that phonetically spells it out. But,
you guys, you've done some pretty racy marketing stuff through the years. Don't you have like April Fools?
We've done some April Fools products before. Yeah. A few shifter deletes. Hella flush stance kits. It's vinyl that just goes over your fenders to cover to wherever the wheel is. The shifter delete just covers the shift box itself. And then balls, of course.
Yes. Yeah, they're always doing profane things there.
Yes.
But most of 034's business is new cars and turboing everything.
These days, it's all of the, we're Mark IV and forward for
VW
for
Audi
VW
products.
Correct. And for Audi, it's B5 and above, basically, would be bread and butter and a lot of the new stuff these days, which have complex ECUs that let you tune for more power.
Yeah, didn't we have a Q5? Did that Q5 wind up in one of our races or no?
Not officially. It did do a sporty race against the LFA and the RS3 just for fun.
Right. I think we probably have iPhone footage of that.
Yeah, I think Sean was in the backseat. I got something.
I vaguely remember. I don't remember who won, but didn't you bring the Q5 down to tow the 200 just in case?
Yes. So the Q5 has towed the 200 a few times, but on this one we were feeling sporty, so we didn't tow it there, but I brought the trailer just in case. It didn't need it. Which was amazing given how Nick drove that car. I mean, I put a V-Box in it and I'm like, okay, well, get the run to the quarter mile, but we need to film this 40 more times, so don't kill it. And all I hear is boom, and a full clutch dump at redline full boost. That was a redemption weekend for that car. The last few times we had tried to take it out to do things, a Hoonigan event, it blew a diff, and then a half-mile event, it blew a tranny. So between those two, we got it sorted. Now it's ready.
Please don't tell me these things, because what I don't want to ever think about is, what would have happened had that car exploded for that shoot.
We would have gone to a junkyard and got another 0-1E.
I'm not worried about you guys. Oh, yeah. We spent all the money to have the crew and the track and the whole thing. Cars blowing up is a problem. I mean, the probe, we had only done half of the coverage in the car for that whole segment. If you look closely in the Mustang, you weren't there for that, but if you look closely in the Dark Horse video, you'll see that all of the exterior moving shots of the probe, it's being towed by the Suburban. We had an Expedition. We had some rental truck that we just towed it, and we just sort of tried to frame out the tow rope, and it's just going down the runway at 30 miles an hour, clunk, 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 because the fucking CV is hanging.
That works.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
At least it's light. You can actually get that thing up to speed, I bet.
We weren't trying with an axle hanging out of it.
Come on.
I mean, I don't want to do more damage.
Live a little. Have fun.
Well, I was worried Nick could kill me. He's one of those guys who just picked me up. No, Hulk smash.
No, he's a gentle giant.
I'm not saying he will, but he could.
Yes.
Just, you don't taunt the German Shepherd to the point where you piss it off.
Fair point.
Although he's, with a last name like Sgambalori, he's not German.
Exactly.
He would just have his
all of the New York Italian. Exactly.
So yes, my only issue, I think that is a really cool car. Actually, I think it's underappreciated. I think it's beautiful. It's well proportioned. It's the right size. I just don't like that it fits into today's negative society of hating everything and everyone. I mean, it's, right now everyone's anti-progress and anti-world, and that is anti-lock. And it's, sorry.
I was wondering where you're going with this.
One of my favorite, shut up, Derek. The audience is going to do enough of a groan from that. I almost showed up with a padlock, just to be like, and what do you have against this? I love that it has an anti-lock button on it. First of all, okay, that it turns off the ABS. Secondly, that it doesn't say, it doesn't have an ABS logo with a thing through it. It just says anti-next line lock. I think that's
anti-lock.
Should be, but it's just anti-lock.
Mm-hmm. But they got most of the way there.
It should be squared.
Yes. Oh my god. But you need to turn it off because it is not the most sophisticated anti-lock. If you are driving spiritedly, it will get in your way. Or in the snow. It's terrible.
I did manage to, in the snow, lock up all 4 of my dad's wheels. So that, if I remember correctly, is Gen 1 Bosch ABS, or it might be 2. But it does not have the ability, it's not smart enough to know what's physically possible and what's not.
Yes.
And those systems, it didn't have a G sensor. It was just using wheel speed.
Right.
So if you smacked the pedal as hard as you possibly could, presumably if you had working power assist,
right?
You could get all 4 wheels to lock up at exactly the same time. To which the computer would say, "We were moving, and now we're stopped." There's nothing for me to do here. I had a Mercedes 190 that would the same thing in the snow. If you pounded the pedal, just all 4 wheels lock, and you drift down sideways, and then you could start to slowly come off the pedal, and one wheel would start turning and be like, "Ach Scheiße, we are moving," and then it would start, and as you're coming off, gradually allow the wheels to unlock. And I'm pretty sure I did that same thing in my dad's car.
I'd believe it. Yeah. It's doable. I was up in Tahoe last weekend with it, and I had to use the anti-lock button, the anti-lock button, because a small bit of slush, and it would immediately enter into anti-lock mode. Mm-hmm. It was quite rough.
What tests at the time showed was that although the primary benefit of ABS is to retain steering control and directional control, ABS cars typically do stop in a shorter distance on dry pavement. And certainly in split mu situations where you have grip on one side and none on the other, it stops you from rotating and going to spin. However, in deep gravel and snow, stopping distances were increased because you actually want a little bit of slip to create a trough with a leading sort of speed bump in front of it. Right. That slows you down better. And so if I remember correctly, the owner's manual explained this, but if you're driving in deep snow or gravel, it recommended turning on, probably not for the US because we're so litigious.
It has the owner's manual in it. So it has all of the original documentation, came with a Bentley manual and everything.
Nice.
So we'll flip through that. We'll see.
It recommended turning it off so that you could lock up the wheels, they would dig in and you'd stop sooner. And that's why they did the thing. And that fueled all kinds of stuff. Like back in the day, I wanted to put ABS in the Scirocco, and I said that on a pre-forum, on a mailing list, listserv. And everyone was like, "You're an idiot. They don't stop as short. You're going to die in this car, whatever." And like, no. It's just very strange, like fringe cases like deep gravel.
Right.
The rest of the time, unless you have 4 feet and 4 different brake pedals, you can't control all 4 wheels individually.
No.
And it's going to beat you.
Exactly. No, most of the systems in it are quite good for their age. I mean, it's power windows, power seats. It's got
General Motors automatic climate control.
Yes, it does.
Shared with Cadillac.
Yep. Which I love. Warmer and cooler. It's just the best.
Not hot and cold.
No, warmer, cooler.
Warmer.
But you can't get too warmest. Hot. Right.
It's
just warmer.
It's just warmer.
You're just more warmer.
More warm.
Exactly.
Anti-lock and Mo warmer.
Exactly.
And doesn't it have GM like power seat controls or something?
Yeah, the 200 did anyway. I don't know if the 90 does.
It's so bizarre.
Though we determined the window switches in this thing is exactly the same
Audi,
as
the 164.
The Alpha 164 and Lancia Tema. Mm-hmm. Exactly. That was totally bizarre. Random.
Exactly.
But are those the same window switches that are in all of the other Audis?
Yeah, in the older ones, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
that were available at the same time. Ferdinand Piech was, of course, the CEO at this time.
But how the fuck did Lancia get those windows? Like the Tipo Quattro cars get that? It's bizarre. They just called Audi
probably
suppliers.
from
Someone
Bosch
drove
or
a 90 and
somewhere.
went, "This is what I need."
It wasn't out yet. Those cars were 1978. They started developing in 78. They were production 82.
I was a nightmare by then. Oof.
Crazy. I don't know. I love that random shit.
I love it.
Something else just had those window switches too.
There was another thing in the studio that had that as well.
Oh, we've talked about the Gisetta.
It was not the Gisetta. No. You had 3.
Saab
the
9000,
Tipo
but the
Quattro
Saab 9000 had the same switches. That's what I'm thinking.
It does?
Yes.
I
thought it
has different window switches.
Funked that it did too. But
This
now,
is the kind of value that Carmudgeon
Yes.
brings to your life.
Yes.
you know, somebody is going to get excited to hear this and be like,
Yes.
no, actually, they look the same, but the Lancia internals are different.
God,
But I did
they're
notice in
made
the
of-
Lancia, they did the click, the Audi click,
Yes.
when you press them, which is just such a Audi thing.
Nuanced thing to know. Yes.
Okay, so what else is in your garage?
Oh God. In California, I have a 2018 M2 that you've driven and been surprised of the throttle pedal not being numb. Did some tuning to make it. BMW will in Sport and Sport Plus mode just put the throttle to like 40% if you touch it. So made that linear. And then
There was the shifter thing you did too. God, this was a while
shifter
ago.
bushings and the mount for the shift linkage.
That's what it was.
Yes.
That car was, so it's an N55 car.
Correct.
I remember thinking and saying to you, I would have 2 of those before I would buy any of the S55 cars.
Yes.
What a sweetheart.
Yes. It makes a sound. Is it slower? Absolutely. But it makes a good sound.
It makes a nice noise. The shifter felt amazing. The throttle was linear. I like the way the boost builds on the N55. It's not this wallop that throws the car sideways and upsets
Jason liking turbochargers?
No.
It could happen again.
Guess not.
it. Me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, well,
Okay.
we'll maybe talk about next week how you bought a turbocharged car instead.
God damn it.
I think the data says differently.
Shut up, both of you. Fuck, I can't have any goddamn secrets in
A
this.
tunable turbocharged car, nonetheless.
A turbocharged car that somebody had previously tuned and didn't tell me.
Yes.
But I knew it as soon as I hit the gas.
Yes.
Holy
yes,
shit.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Most of my garage is turbocharged. This is my only natural. No, I have one other naturally aspirated vehicle.
It's a K.
It is a
Yeah.
K.
That is not actually aspirated. That's barely aspirated.
It is aspirating as we speak. Yes.
Yeah.
It aspires to one day make a horsepower.
Yeah, one day. Yes. So that is the 1989 Subaru Sambar K truck, of which is my prized possession. Will never leave.
Really?
Oh my God. It's so bad. It's great.
Well, it's one of those things where you're like, would you rather have the car or the money? And you're like, well, how much is it worth?
$6.
I'd rather have the
Sorry,
car.
my lunch.
Exactly. It has been so useful for me in many years. It's been all across the country. I've towed various things with it, load things up with it. It's hilarious. Yes.
Okay.
It tows my other broken vehicles. It towed a 944 turbo in and out of the parking lot very often.
Okay, drags, not
Well,
we're not talking like a trailer on the back of it.
No.
How many horsepower is this thing? 34?
19.
Oh my god!
It is a 3-valve 2-cylinder EK23. Yeah, sporty.
Why did they not maximize the 656cc?
Because this was This was 550 maximum. This is 549. Yes.
Is that
So
okay?
They came pretty close to maxing it out.
Yeah. It has had 1 full ton of river rock in the truck bed before. I was doing a landscaping ahead of one of our events at work, and like a mile and a half away is a rock quarry. And I was like, these bushes are terrible. Like, let's just make this a rock garden. Well, I've got the truck. I just towed 5 cars out of the parking lot.
Truck is a strong word, Nick.
Oh, come on. It's got a bigger bed than most trucks out today.
That's fair. I have actually partied in that bed.
You
had a
have.
huge stereo in there.
Yes.
For
And
Radwood.
even with that in, it fit 1 full ton of river rock. It drove on the bump stops the whole way back, but
drove is a strong word. It motored is a strong word. It moved.
Locomoted.
It moved under its
locomoted.
own power begrudgingly.
I mean, the good thing that a lot of people have a hard time grasping is weight does not actually affect top speed. And in the case of this, the suspension was so squished that you probably got an extra mile an hour.
The aerodynamics was incredible. Yeah. Correct. Exactly. So she does a sprightly 40 if the weather's right. Okay. It depends. But
that you have a following hurricane.
You have a big tailwind.
Do you have a DA calculator like on the dash? Be like, okay, well, I'm only going to do 37 today
because the density altitude.
I keep the draggy in it to see 0 to 5. Yes. Yeah.
So the draggy can't do anything under if you don't hit 60. It just ignores it. Right?
No, to do 60 feet. It measure how many minutes did it take me to go 60 feet.
That's cool.
Correct.
Yes. We should. It's back east, right?
It is, but it can go places.
Well, the next time it comes here, I think we should bring it on a Cammisa's Ultimate Drag Race replay.
Oh my
God. And get that biker kid. The bicyclist who raced the Volkswagen bus was awesome. Like he was amazing. He was not only fucking like fast as shit on a bicycle, but he was really a lot of fun to hang out with. I would totally have him back because I think he would probably beat your car through the quarter mile.
Trounce it without a question.
So the ultimate drag race is all composed of vehicles that you hope will all lose against the bicyclist.
Yeah. Generally speaking.
I mean, it's a very difficult show to edit. It's a 10-minute show, and the fucking fun is over in 8 seconds for having these cars, 9, 10, 12 seconds. Like, we could have a 45-minute race with that fucking thing.
Yeah. Without a question.
What else do you put we have to think about what else to pit against it.
That fucking Fiat Cinquecento and the diesel Land Rover.
Yeah, diesel Land Rover.
Probably like a Pug as well. Though the Pug could probably beat it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Frenchie, they have breathing problems.
Right.
My Frenchies are well in shape. They can beat the shit out of this truck without a question.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, and then we'll pass out. See?
There it is. Like the Frenchie, right? And the truck. Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. Oh, you broke it.
No, there's a design flaw in this. I have to contact the guy who made these for us and have him make us new ones.
That's not good.
Yeah, the amount of plastic that there is on this on the little corner.
The overhang.
For those listening at home, I broke the Carmudgeon logo that we have here. Their little jack stands that are holding it up.
To be fair, this jack stand could hold up the truck. This could hold up the truck.
Who made the jack stands that were recalled somewhat recently?
Oh, Harbor Freight.
Harbor Freight? Okay.
It's pronounced horrible.
Horrible Freight?
Horrible Freight.
Yes.
Don't start with the New York thing. It's not fair.
So yes, those are my two naturally aspirated vehicles. I have the rest are turbocharged. The M2, the 2018 SQ5, which was at the shoot.
10-second car.
10-second car. Little under 700 horsepower.
Did you call it you have a nickname for that car, like the mommy soccer machine or the refrigerator or something?
Well, it's the schmuck. Yeah,
that's right.
Yes. All of my vehicles are serialized by Schmuckitude, and that is by far the schmuckiest of all the schmucks.
And your license plate says that.
It is correct. Yeah. That is correct. Yes, it was a development vehicle for work that has since seen many things. Yet with 101,000 miles.
All of which it hopes to forget.
Oh, it wants the ground quickly. I beat the ever living balls off of that thing. It's great.
Yearns for the soil.
Yes. But it does everything. It's a tow rig. It's been at Laguna Seca. It's been mid 140s at Laguna Seca, and that was when it had 200 less horsepower. So I think there's opportunities for a 130 with that thing.
Put Randy Popst in it.
I thought about bringing it back just to do it.
Yeah, I want to know. So the thing about Randy is he'll say yes to everything, especially if it's a lot of horsepower. Yes. I would love to see what he could beat.
It'll lose brakes in 4 laps.
He only needs one.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
he'll probably finish them off in 1 lap.
Yes,
he doesn't use them. Well, he's Randy fucking Popst.
As I discovered, the calipers they put on those generations of Audis are a single piece cast caliper, 6-piston, so it looks sporty. But as they heat up and expand, they expand faster than the bleed screw. So no matter what, when you get to thermal maximum, it will just piss all of its fluid out of the bleeder screw hole. So in 4 laps, it happened to me at Laguna.
What? That must have been very. You must have been very alert when that happened.
It was a sporty moment for sure, and. We've since confirmed it happens on the S4s, on the RS5s.
Hold on, is that those same brakes on the RS3?
Yes.
Okay, that explains. I have a friend we all know a friend who wrote one off very spectacularly because foot pedal on the floor.
New RS3, not previous generation.
This is previous generation.
No, the previous was a Brembo caliper, which was also terrible for other reasons. Yes, yes, Audi and braking, not their strong suits.
Or handling.
We fix that.
I have
Yes,
seen
you have to, because
I follow you guys on Instagram, and you're always doing these fucking
We do shenanigans.
outrageous shenanigans on public roads,
Close roads.
close course, whatever it is. I see you coming around a corner in a fucking white Q5, and it's like, freeze frame,
Honestly, yeah.
like a 38-degree lean, and then the other car comes through at exactly the same speed, and 12-degree lean or whatever it is. And you're like, look at what our roll bars do. Yeah.
Yes. Well, you ought to come to the track day the next time we do it. I think we're doing Buttonwillow at the end of the month, where you can see an Audi turn. It's crazy.
I've never experienced it.
They just
It's
don't do
crazy.
it out of the box.
No, they don't. But that's, a lot of people ask me like Audi or BMW, and it's like, do you want a daily that you can make sporty, or do you want a sporty car that you can daily, right? So the BMW out of the box.
I think the
is going to be a
Porsche is
sporty
actually
vehicle.
the one that does that.
That wasn't on the list.
That's not the price point.
Fucking
we're talking
Porsche
about here.
weenie over here. Always. 911 is always the answer.
You take over Monterey Car Week. Can you give us something else?
I have never.
I love that. We can bang.
That's
I
not
have
true.
never.
I've only owned non-Porsche Porsches, a Cayenne and a 944. I refuse to own a real Porsche.
Okay.
I've owned a 986 and a 996, so same.
Yes.
the purists will say, bullshit, those are not real Porsches.
I've had a Cayenne and a 944 and a 928 and a 968
And
that's and a 991.
and a bunch of 911s.
yes.
Is there a generation of 911 you've not had? 993, right?
997, 993. I would never own a 993. I would own a 997.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only. That's the only
egg headlight?
Mary.
No, Egg
No,
is
that's
996.
996.
997 was the update that fixed everything.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
997 is the only Mary water cooled 911 in my opinion. I think the rest of them are all bang or kill.
I do poop on 911s pretty aggressively, having never driven one.
You've never.
No, I know. I don't operate in circles with 911 owners, and
Hello, he's owned every single one ever made.
Yeah, I mean it's. I like driving it, and then I hate doing anything else car related in that car. I would never bring it to Cars and Coffee. I would never take it to Car Week. It's because I have other stuff that's more interesting. It's a car that I own for me because of the experience of driving it,
which I
that's
have
the value.
no doubt in.
Like I'm not sentimentally attached to any Porsche that I've owned. I don't think. Maybe the first one I ever had.
964?
It's not sentimental.
Really?
I'm attached to that car because of what it can do. But if that car were written off, I'd be like, okay, well, I'll build another one that's exactly the same in a color I like more.
God, I wish I was like that.
Yeah.
I'm sentimentally attached to all of my cars.
Porsches feel like the car that you buy when you're done fiddling with something. Like when you are done just trying to make a car better and you just want it best out the box, that feels like the car to get. And I'm not done fiddling. So I did drive a 981 GT4 a couple of months ago, and that started to show me why this is pretty incredible.
Back in the day, I thought they were stupid, and then I drove a 996 and bought one.
Yeah.
It's like there's just no... Wow.
Yeah.
No.
It's just the cultural implications and the imaginativeness of it is all lacking.
I'm coming from Audi owner land, so cultural experience is part of the game too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love the cultural experience of a vintage Audi. I wish they were more mainstream, and I wish they were less painful to own. But that was one of the cars, despite it being like I think the biggest money losing car I've ever owned. Is I really enjoyed the vintage Audi experience.
Yeah, it's one of the only Audis I can recall that has a personality or some semblance of a soul. I'm not gonna say soul, but a semblance. The engine is very soulful.
It's adjacent. Yeah. I think that's what I like about it, and that's the reason why there's no modern Audis I'd really want. Certainly, I don't know, maybe an RS4.
Yeah. And those motors are unbelievable, and they can do a lot of things. But it's, combination of parts doesn't always... Each part can be great, but the combination of it doesn't...
Yeah, how it comes together.
I mean, RS2 I would own.
Yes.
RS4 I would own.
Yes.
A 4000 I would own.
Yeah.
With a 20 valve in it.
Yes.
With a 20 valve
you
swap.
don't want 10 valve. No CIS.
No. I mean, I have enough of that.
Yeah.
But no, this sort of... The 80 and the 4000... 80, 90, and 4000.
I loved my 200.
Which is effectively a larger version of the same formula, right?
Audi's become soulful when you can say what the fuck after driving it. So, our cars at the shop are very what the fuck afterwards, which is why I still I've had the SQ5 for 5 years, and that's the longest I've ever owned a vehicle. Because every single time I go, what the fuck after I drive the thing? And it's just, I giggle all the time.
Yeah,
so
it's the combination of competence and usefulness and also like experience.
And 700 horsepower. helps.
Experience,
yes.
like I said.
Yes, the experience. So yes, they can be made to be soulful, but out of the box, they are certainly an anemic thing. So sort of going back to why would you want an Audi over a BMW is, do you want to get somewhere comfortably and then maybe have fun later? That's the Audi.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Versus
want
the other way
Or
around.
fun incidentally.
fun incidentally.
Incidental fun.
Right.
Accidental fun.
To start, yes. Versus BMW, I get in my M2 completely stock, and the juxtaposition of you have to put $15,000 into an RS5 to make it half as good as an M2 stock. Right. And that's a depressing reality for the driver's related use. But daily use, RS5 is incredible, right? So it's a give and take.
I'm always kind of tough on Audis personally because they don't do the things that I value, right? I value that the magic in the best cars on the planet is that last bit of chassis tuning where everything works together. The suspension does exactly what you want, never harsh for no reason. The steering is perfectly linear, all this, talkative, whatever. All of that stuff is absent from every Audi ever made, but for the RS2 and the RS4.
I think vintage Audis, yeah.
Modern stuff. You mean it's absent
I think that it's present in other vintage Audis as well, in addition to... Yeah.
I mean, so we had a coupe, a Nitro. I think it was a Nitro. No, it was a Quattro.
It was a Quattro.
And our other friend has a Nitro. And I drive them, and they're wonderful cars, actually. They're nice cars. It's a nice... Yeah. I love the shifter. For whatever reason, there's something amazing about that shifter.
Because it's like the Volkswagen shifter.
No, it's nowhere near as terrible. No, it's a positive click into gear. Yep. There's just something about the shift knob. It feels quality. It feels expensive and it feels different and without being the Mercedes sort of different for the sake of being recalcitrant.
Right.
I love the gauges. I love the switch gear. There's just a lot of stuff that I really like about the car. And you drive it and they're like, wow, somebody put 400 times the amount of pressure through this power assisted steering system that it needs because you could just spin it from lock to lock.
Right.
And there's just, then the sort of things that grow on me when I drive a car, that talkativeness is just not there.
I have found if the Audi's power steering is not working very well, it does become a very fun car. That one doesn't work very well, quite fun. My previous TTRS, his probably has some form of steering rack issue, but it never really had power assisted steering past 20 miles an hour, which made it the most fun TTRS I've ever driven and owned.
Okay.
So depower your power steering.
Didn't you and I do some experiment on some Audi that we were driving in? This is years ago, and I turned the ignition off going down a hill.
That was in the R8.
It was the R8, and I was like, "What the fuck?" That's right. You have this insane single clutch automated.
No, it was a
dual clutch.
It was a dual clutch.
Dual clutch V8.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even know they made.
2014 only.
And I was driving it, and I'm like, "Why is this so dead?"
I thought they made them in 2013 as well.
That was R-tronic, not S-tronic.
Correct.
They switched in 14. I thought they switched in 13.
At least for the U.S. I can't speak for the rest of the world.
I didn't even know they made it until you made me drive that thing. It was spectacular noise came out of that thing. Whatever exhaust you guys.
Yeah.
Did you have exhaust on it?
Yeah. It was a divided exhaust system. So the left and the right bank never talk to each other. So it sounds like this almost like a
filthy
heavy NASCAR type.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was. But I remember turning the steering off going, what? Oh, look, this is actually all just being filtered out because Audi engineers are assholes. Yeah. And then turn the engine back on and blah, blah, blah.
Right. It could be there. But no, they take some coaxing to make fun. TTRSs in general have been the most responsive because they're Golfs, which is kind of an unfortunate reality, right? Like they are big GTIs.
The RS3 that I drove recently, I did 2 or 3 laps around Big Willow, was spectacular.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe what they did with that diff.
The rear diff is unbelievable. And the MQB Evo chassis that sits on, which is Golf, is very good. It's just very good. Yeah.
Annoying.
It is.
Is that discontinued, that car?
The RS3?
Yeah.
No.
They're still making it? So they're still making a 5-cylinder car?
Correct. They're just not making the TTRS anymore. That has gone. It's just the RS3.
Is the RS3 the last 5-cylinder, isn't it?
Yeah. Allegedly, though. I mean, we know folks within and around Audi and Audi Sport, and it seems to be this email thread every week where We're doing no gas engines. We're doing 5-cylinder in the next R8 replacement. We're doing EV only. We're doing
in the next R8
R8
replacement, so it has to be a hybrid.
Yeah,
it has to be a hybrid.
Right. It's bounced around. They can't decide once a week what they're going to do next. So
that's
I think
not the right car for that engine. That engine is magical. I love 5 cylinders. I think they're great, but
the current one is so.
Wait, didn't the R8 get discontinued also?
It did.
Okay.
Replaced by in the Lamborghini land, I forget the name of the thing, the Huracan replacement.
Temerario.
Tenerife, whatever it is.
Tenerife. That's their own thing.
That 5-cylinder just became anesthetized, and it makes nice noises outside the car ish. But if I want a 5-cylinder, I want the full 5-cylinder experience, which means a lot of warble and a lot of.
Which can be done. Yeah, I mean, it's those mid resonators right at the front of the firewall, or take those out.
Other problem.
And problem solved.
That's the coolest thing is every time I talk to you about something, I'm like, this sucks. And you're like, oh, we've already fixed that.
Oh, right. Thank you, Audi, for leaving a lot on the table for us to fix. But there's a lot to fix, such as improper directional rotors is the thing that I will forever.
This is what I mean about that last couple percent. So would you like to explain what that is?
So on almost every Audi that's performance oriented in the slightest, they will put directional rotors on the car that are correct on the left side, but then use the left rotor on the right side and then tell you that it's a bidirectional rotor. But if you look at the veining, it only works in one direction. So you end up with calipers and brakes on the right side of the car that are anywhere from 50 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than the ones on the left, which boiling point of brake fluid, you're now over, right?
On one side.
On one side.
So it's very good at turning. That's how they get them to turn.
Right, exactly.
Lock up the wheels,
but they can only turn left.
Yeah. So you put in directional rotors, Audi, and ironically, Lamborghini on the Huracan, same car as an R8, it's correct.
Really?
The R8, incorrect.
Yeah. You just say because you always get the sense, this is always the case with Audis. You get the sense that all the people at the top say this is a fringe case. We don't care. It doesn't matter to our owners. And I would say it actually matters to all the people who are buying Porsches and BMWs, and they would consider your cars if you got this shit right. You could just spend a little bit more money, get your shit right, and you'd probably sell a lot more cars to the mainstream people who listen to those people who are the tastemakers at the top.
Right. Boy, I'm going to get dogged on after this for hating on Audi for an hour.
Okay, we can hate on Volkswagen if you like.
Well,
we can hate on Derek.
Hating on
all
Audi.
cars come with their problems, right? And I'm very intimately aware of the ones for these, which is why we're a company. It's why we have things to make, right?
That's good. You got your work cut out with yours.
There's plenty to make.
But then even the VW stuff. I mean, did you put their dog bone insert in your Mark 7 GTI? That was one of the most amazing transformations.
Thought about bringing that for other things.
For a car that I didn't buy?
A car that you don't own.
Okay. So I'm going to buy one. I'm buying one. So this is like an ingenious thing. So all of these fucking modern front-wheel drive cars have wheel hop that is so genuinely horrendous, I don't even understand how they don't crack the frame of the car.
Well, so they fixed it. So in Mark 5 and 6 generation, you would.
Oh, you would.
Now you just don't.
They don't break the chassis
They replaced
anymore.
the dog bone arm from a cast aluminum thing that would bang into the subframe and then shatter in half to a stamped steel one that will just bend and deform around the subframe.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead of fixing the fucking real problem, which is the wheel hop, which is fixed. So the wheel hop is happening. The worst offender I've seen is the Elantra N. Right. That was we somehow failed to get adequate video of this when we did the last Cooter, but you can see it. It was one shot, but the other shot didn't work. There was a reflection of there was a car missing. Something happened, but you can watch the fender and hood and bumper and headlights all separate and join and separate and join and separate join. 3 times a second. Bah, 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 bah. It was in the car was one of the worst sounds I've ever heard.
It sounded bad outside the car too.
Yeah, fucking horrendous. And it's all because everyone is putting in soft bushings and there are soft engine mounts so that you don't feel any vibration.
Yeah, which is then the reason why you pop the clutch out, because you think the engine's off, but it's actually still running, and then the car lurches, and you're like, oh, I guess it was on, and I didn't know.
I love this. Derek's the type of person I could literally give him keys to a fucking 27 carburetor, 16-cylinder, missing 3 cylinders with no synchro mesh and a clutch made out of that stupid fucking drinking vessel, and he will start it perfectly on a hill and operate it perfectly smoothly and never grind a gear and never just drive. He drives around everything, and all he did in his GTI was just think it's turned off.
Classic.
And right. So the solution is you guys make this is it billet?
It is billet.
It's billet aluminum insert that just goes in the mount and
around the rubber.
Around the rubber.
Right.
The existing factory rubber.
So that when you're cruising or under light load, you don't feel any difference, right? You're not compressing a bunch of things. It's not this big stiff mount. But when you're under load, and for those that aren't familiar, these are transverse engines that there is a arm that prevents the engine from just rotating 360 degrees in the engine bay. And there is, within the mounting system that it's on, has some play. It's right about a ½ inch each direction. So, or total. So we put this thing in between that just fills the void so that when you load up, it stops. There's still a little room for general movement, but then your gear is actually where you thought it would be when you're trying to shift versus the engine transmission shaking and you're trying to find the gear halfway through a pull.
To me, the amazing part of that transformation was just even at idle. So there was enough of a difference at idle that went from I couldn't tell the car was running, genuinely if I tried, didn't know, to now if I'm touching the shifter, if I'm paying attention, I feel just enough of a hint that the engine's running. And you sort of don't want to bitch to an engineer and say, you've made this too refined, but the Mark 7 GTI is too refined. And then you cannot shift by sound because you hear and feel nothing. You have to use the tack. And I'm sorry, in a sporty car, the car needs its exhaust chopped off anyway. But I want to feel the rise in rev so I can.
Is it good noise if you chop the exhaust off of those cars?
Oh, you're going to say no.
To mix less convinced.
You have to be very calculated with what you do and don't remove. Otherwise, it very quickly will sound like a tractor.
Interesting.
Only Mark 7 and above, to be fair, because they went to the internal head manifold. So it's just these two ports off the back into the turbocharger. For whatever reason, and from there on, you can track any car that went internal head manifold. Sounds like poop in comparison to its previous generation that had a proper manifold.
So Anthony Esposito has a Mark 7 Sport,
right?
So 2017 Sport manual, and he couldn't deal with how quiet it was. And so the first thing he did was just brought it to a muffler shop and chopped off the rear, and they just sort of mounted up two tips that looked exactly like stock and just made a pipe right back. It sounds fucking fantastic.
Stock cat, though.
Stock cat.
Critical.
Okay.
Yes. So if you're going to remove everything beneath the cat, keep the cat. Otherwise, other way around. If you're in an environment where a sport cat and catless is allowed, keep the back muffler because you can't do both. Otherwise, you get into this really bad tractor world.
Okay. Good to know.
Really bad tractor world. Don't go there.
Yes,
really?
Don't go there.
Don't go there.
Don't go there.
It's good to know.
The worst form of tractor world.
there are multiple tractor words. This is the one you don't want to go to. I love all this stuff. We'll see. Maybe I'll play with.
There's things.
There's things. What's next on your automotive?
Did we finish getting through your list of? No. We have to finish that.
We got ADHD'd, which happens a lot. On
this show?
Never.
Who? What?
Never. So there's the recently departed TTRS 8J, the manual ones, a 2016 Cayenne GTS that I bought as a tow vehicle.
So you have two tow vehicles.
I do have two tow vehicles because in an attempt to move out of the state of California, I wanted to rent a U-Haul, which was $14,000 one way.
Get out.
One way for a 20-foot box truck.
So the Cayenne was $14,000?
I instead bought a vehicle that could then tow a trailer that I also would then purchase, moved across the country, sold the trailer for what I bought it for, and then had a vehicle for sort of family driving. Yep.
Damn.
Yep. Screw
on what
you.
Planet should have?
Why didn't you use the white Audi?
Yeah.
I needed to tow something more than 7,000 or more than 4,000 pounds.
Got it.
And while I've cheated it quite often with like 5,500,
we've just heard about the brakes. You don't want to be cheating there.
Yeah. I've towed 6,000 pounds with the SQ5, and it did snap one of the bolts holding the.
So it's a structural limitation.
It is a structural limitation.
It's holding what?
Holding the what should we call it? Trailer hitch.
Okay.
They're just through bolts to the back of the frame, like in the frame rail, and it's this tiny little overlap. It's not very strong.
I have to ask the question: did it snap that on a full boost torque, like a launch control?
I may have been racing someone while towing a 6,000-pound trailer up the grapevine, but it still got me home. I didn't know. Yes, like I said, I abused the crap out of that car.
My trick is always to look what the German towing spec is, because often the cars are identical.
It's usually more.
Yeah, well, yeah, it'll say towing not possible or 1,000 pounds for our car. And I know this, E39 was the last time I did this. 1,000 pounds max, but towing is not advised for the US. Same car was 2,000 kilos. So 4,400 pounds for the identical car.
You know why they do that though, right?
Because we'll sue and they won't.
Speed limits. There's towing speed limits all across the European Union and everywhere of 55 miles.
Yeah, but so what are ours?
We don't have one. Only the state of California has 55. The rest of the country,
while towing.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You would have 70, 80, who cares? At that
Evidently, the Germans. So,
I
they limit tow cap. So it's funny, in Canada, they have a regional tow cap too. So SQ5 in Canada is 5,500 pounds.
You're kidding?
Yeah.
Oh, I just assumed it was litigation. Like if we tell you not to do it and you do it, you can't sue us for it.
It's probably a bit of both, right? But that's been the one that I've heard of. So I bought a 24-foot wind sail of an enclosed trailer, and I
Is that the model name?
yes.
Don't you have a thing
sail.
about a naming trailers?
It's usually
RVs?
for motorhomes, right? Motorhomes always have these names, right? So you always everyone plays this game where you put the word anal in front of the motorhome name.
Everyone plays this
It's a
game?
classic.
Okay, we're doing a
It's
survey on this.
It's a road trip game where you put the word anal in front of the motorhome name, and then you have to read the name of the motorhome. So if it's like the Anal Pleasure Way, or like, which is a real thing.
Anal Wanderer.
Yeah, Anal Wanderer. I mean, Anal Leprechaun.
Yes.
I saw the Anal Shadow Cruiser in Germany. I saw Mein Hobby, right? A motorhome that said Mein Hobby. Oh. Right? So that's, right, which is very German, right? Especially if you're near Berlin. Anyway.
Oh my. I only did this for Fords. And that all started with the Anal
No,
Probe.
you do it with cars generally, right? Well, an Explorer and Excursion.
Anal Excursion, Anal Expedition, Anal Ranger.
Yeah. It's very good with Focus and Fiesta. Fiesta's a good one.
Anal Festiva, the little one.
But
who knew?
But you do it with car names generally, but motorhomes also.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then you also play the game of what headlights and taillights are on the Class A motorhome
Yes,
from another vehicle.
yes, you're like, that's very definitely a Mercedes. Well, you see it on semis, Mercedes W124 turn signals.
A lot of E36 M3.
Oldsmobile Aurora on one of them, I think I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole Facebook group for RV taillight spotting. It's great.
Damn it.
It's
my free time.
Yeah, it's gone.
There goes my anal free time. Sorry.
I bought this the trailer and tried to
The
tow
wind
it
sail.
from
Right.
the wind sail. I bought the wind sail from Sacramento and tried to drive it back down to San Jose. And on a gusty day down 680 with up to 40 miles an hour, and it was
Truth in advertising, it was a wind sail.
It was truly a wind sail. It was a horrifying experience, which led me immediately to go, open trailer, sure. Closed trailer, not going to work. So the Cayenne did beautiful. I didn't even know I had a flat tire for about a mile until a trucker honked at me and went, back there. I was listening to a Carmudgeon podcast at the time, so I blame you both.
So we were very engaging. So engaging.
He was asleep, is what I was. Lulled him right to sleep.
Somewhere in New Mexico. But yeah, no, it towed great. It was 7,600 pounds, something like that.
Did you actually weigh it?
So I went through one of the weigh stations just for fun because I also wasn't paying attention, and it was in Arizona.
So it doesn't count.
It doesn't count. It was Arizona. It doesn't count. So yeah, it tows pretty well for the weight.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you still have the Cayenne?
I do. That is the girlfriend's runaround vehicle. She commutes. I don't. So that
That's efficient commuter car.
Yes. All
what
16
flavor
MPG.
of Cayenne is it?
GTS.
Yes, that's
black
right.
Over
You said
peanut.
Peanut.
Yes.
That's not what they call it, is it?
It's not.
It's
But it's
anal
what it
peanut.
looks like.
Black over anal
Chestnut.
peanut.
Chestnut is the that's the right one. Yeah.
What generation?
958.2.
Okay.
So
I had a
nice-
black
it's a
on
nice
Chestnut 957.
That's aesthetic. I liked the facelift of
5540. I wanted commercial plates for it, and I had to go weigh it, and it was 5540. That was because it was a steel structure one. I think they lost 600 or 800 pounds when they went to the
How much does it have to weigh in California?
6,000.
6,000?
New Cayennes are on the list.
of section 171.
Yeah. But that's GVWR. It's you don't actually need to go weigh it. Yeah, it's.
No,
on the
they needed
sticker.
a weight certificate to give me commercial plates.
Oh, okay.
Did you? And you couldn't get it because it was only.
No, I
55?
got them.
Oh, so it's not.
You can
6,000.
do it. For commercial plates, it's car or station wagon or whatever. Like a station wagon works. It doesn't need to be a truck. They just need a weight certificate in order to put commercial plates on a vehicle.
So why? This is a California thing that I
Yes.
don't know. Why would you want commercial plates?
Oh.
You fucking felon! It's so he could park in commercial spots.
Who could
Loading
say?
zones?
That's genius.
That's a fucking great hack. I mean, aren't they costing like $1,000 a year to register?
No. Some
I thought
nominal
pickup
amount.
trucks in California were insanely expensive.
Maybe pickup trucks, but
they don't get commercial because Pennsylvania pickups
you
get
can.
commercial
Right.
plates.
No, they don't get it here.
You can put commercial plates on your pickup truck if you want to.
I
Here.
love Felon Derek.
This is why there are signs that say commercial parking 3 axles or more.
Oh my
because
God.
of this
Because
exact
of you.
situation.
Because of you.
Only
You know
someone
what
in
the
San
terrible
Francisco
thing
would
is?
look for this.
I went through all this trouble and I never actually had a situation where I ever used it.
You deserve that, you fucking
It's because
criminal.
I sold it relatively quickly.
Did it get rear-ended a couple hundred times?
It got rear-ended once, but that wasn't why I
They're
sold
kind
it.
of built for that.
Clearly,
Yeah, I mean, it was-
will tow 7,700 pounds.
Yeah, it was mostly cosmetic. It was a pretty hard hit. I was the third in line for the rear end. We had a train, and the one in the middle, she was very traumatized by the whole experience, and I just had like a bumper, but it was a Porsche, so it was $14,000.
Of course, naturally. The games you have to play to get ideal registration here are I never realized how ridiculous it was until I registered the truck in Tennessee, because I just showed up with it and I was like, you gotta kind of take me on word. This is a 1989 truck, but it was registered previously as a 1993 in Washington State as an ATV. And the guy,
This is the sandbar?
Yes. The guy was like, okay, what year do you want it to say? And I was just like, I said 89, but I should have said 74 in hindsight.
Because
then
I
you could
could've
bring
come
it back
here
to
and had no
California
problem.
with
You could probably change it. Go back to the DMV and do that.
Evidently,
And
yeah.
not that anyone is hearing this from the whatever state
never.
you live in DMV.
Well, not to name the DMV or the licensing office so they don't get caught, but there's apparently a loophole in the South that I was only aware of until recently.
Do tell.
I'm
if
interested.
you want to clean a title, go to Alabama.
I've heard of this.
So
They don't-
there was a gentleman next to me at the window who inherited a truck from a deceased relative and didn't have any of the proper paperwork to actually put it into his own name. So the lady at the desk, and where I'm in Tennessee, Alabama's like 45 minutes away. She goes, drive on down to Alabama, tell them you lost the title. They'll give you a blank form, fill it in your name, register it there, and then come on back up and we'll get your title up here. So I looked into it from there. This is a big thing in the supercar world to wash flooded cars. Mm-hmm. So you get a branded title in another state. If it's ever been in Alabama, walk away, because it's been
Good to know.
It's likely been washed.
This is why the rest of
Carfax
the country
presumably would also.
Yeah.
Yes, you would hope.
If it's not on the Carfax, though, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, so Alabama, that's useful information.
Yes. So
But this is why everyone hates California, because our DMV is, I mean, for those people who are listening who don't live in California, you can't even register a regular car. Like you walk in and they are like, no. And you're like, what's the reason? You're in California.
Yeah.
That's the reason. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not, there's some stuff you can't do, for sure.
there's all kinds of stuff you can't do. I mean,
Yeah,
the problem
one
is
of
that
the most frustrating to me is the fact that if a car is 1975 or newer, it has to pass smog. If it is older than 75, it doesn't have to pass smog, except for if it's a car that was not sold in the United States, or I think in the United States originally.
You're kidding.
If
No.
it's 1968 to 1974, even if it's smog exempt, if it's a car that wasn't sold here, like a Lancia Fulvia or a Citroen DS after they left the U.S. market,
because the U.S. at that point
1972.
did have some smog regulations, and they want to
Right.
make sure that you're
Sure.
only importing something that was a 50-state car at that point.
Yes. So if it's a 1968 car that was never offered in the United States and doesn't have any placarding on it, you cannot register it here.
Oh my god.
And
If it's
the
not properly
stupidity of it.
placarded. But it's stupid also because it's not a 17-digit VIN. They can't confirm what market it's from. So if it's a car, you could hypothetically, of course, make a label that says it's compliant and stick it on the car and then get a title for
Well,
it.
right. My K truck had a 11-digit VIN, and I had to have one made by Washington State Patrol at the time.
They made a 17
because
They made
it was
a-
newer than 1981.
Correct.
Well,
So you could just
importing the Rover, which was 100%. I mean, it's a 1980. It's a North American market car. It was Canadian. This is the SD1. I brought it to the DMV here, and they turned me away, and they're like, "You can't register the car here." And it was because they wanted one of the digits. So the 10th digit by federal law is the year digit.
Yes.
The 11th is check. They wanted this is a pre-1981 VIN. right? So it's 1980. 1981 is the formulated federal 17-digit VIN. California has its own law for 1979 and 1980, which I had no idea.
Just those 2 years?
Just those 2 years.
Classic.
And they said the year code, the 10th digit for all California, all federal cars for 1980 must be a 0 or a 1, which is 1970 or 79 or 81, whatever it was. And this wasn't, and therefore the VIN was invalid. It was not a North American market car, and I couldn't register. I went back 3 times, finally there was a Swiss guy that worked at this place, and I'm like, oh my God, this is an SD1. I have not seen one of these. Thank God, perfect. He's like, let me look in the book. They have a fucking book in the back, this huge set of binders, and he pulls it out and opens it, and sure enough, it shows exactly where the VIN stampings are on the car, and that it was at a special exemption that Rover had to file with California because Rover didn't follow California's rules, even though the cars were legal for sale in California, and the U.S. emissions, the 50-state cars were California emissions compliant. This is the level of fuckery for us to give them money. That's the stupid part of this. Look around California. What percent of classic and exotic cars have Montana plates on it, New Mexico plates on it, California, Arizona, whatever? All they're doing is saying, we don't want your money, which is actually what they do want, but they're just that fucked up. So now that you've finally lived outside of the West Coast, you realize why everyone hates us.
You learn just go register everything in Alabama, apparently.
Yeah.
Evidently.
That's the moral of the
unless
story.
Unless you want to sell it, and then everyone's going to run away when you have to sell it.
You're
I
right,
mean,
exactly.
every place is a trade-off. There are many things
course.
that we like about being in California, but the DMV is not one of them.
That's correct. This is a lovely place. I have the benefit of being here every month, so it's almost like
Not too much, or you're going to get taxed by California. Okay.
That's true. It's true. Yeah.
Don't admit that
6 months in
publicly.
one day. Yeah. No, it's and on those trips back, get to play with such Rover, right? I mean, that thing.
Yes.
It was worth it. It's worth it to get it here.
So the Rover I don't think we've talked about this.
I can't remember, but yes, it got a makeover.
So it had a vaginal rejuvenation.
Yes.
So you showed up, I don't know why, at my shop, and you were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm about to do shocks and springs on a Rover SD1. And you just were like, where are the gloves?
Deal.
I have to hand it to you. I had so much fun working. It is so much fun working with someone on an old car with someone who's engineering minded, has a great sense of humor, doesn't get upset or frustrated, and is perennially making terrible, inappropriate jokes.
I mean, it's par for the course. That environment, you just have to do it. You can't get mad at the British Leyland vehicle for being what it is. It is what it is. You're going to wrench through it.
You get mad at the engineers.
No, we got mad at our friend who was there, who was like frantically looking up instructions on how to do. By the time he was done explaining to us all of the dangers of a strut suspension layout, we'd already had the front suspension apart on that car. Yeah. You schooled me, and then so many other people schooled me about the fact that Audis also use a system with one lower control arm using the sway bar as an additional locating member. Correct. So we did this suspension swap on the Rover, which wasn't that bad.
No.
I mean, there were 3 of us. It was 2 of us plus, the one who sat there and then another friend.
Who was necessary for the weight of those front strut assemblies?
Dude, the fucking thing weighed a ton.
Gotta be 100 pounds.
Yeah. There was that. Well, the first one fell. I mean, we were like, all right, just hold it up. Bam. But also the fuckery that is getting the bushings in the back. I've never in my life seen just a shock that difficult, or a spring. Like, you don't realize how German cars are Lego pieces. Everything fits perfectly together. And if it doesn't fit perfectly together, you smack it with a little hammer and thunk, and it fits.
Right.
Nothing fits together on a Rover. Like nothing.
It was impressive. There was a lot of rolling around with different washers and trying to press things together. I think I used a mallet to like help lever arm a spring over something.
We used a pole jack to fit. I mean, the shit that we had to do to get pieces that had previously been together to go back together was truly impressive. So I did shocks and springs, and I did Rimmer Brothers is a supplier in the UK that does Rover parts. Mm-hmm. So I ordered Vitesse, which was the homologation sort of M car version of the SD1, the rally homologation car. Shocks and springs. Did some bushings? No, only shock mounts on the back and
yes.
upper strut bearings.
Right, we left the blown out sway bar bushings.
Yeah, because who gives a shit?
Yeah.
They weren't that blown out.
They were there.
They were physically touching.
Well, they were touching, and they were well lubricated.
They were very well lubricated from massive oil leaks everywhere. And then so it had soulless cum whores on it, which were the tires. This is a brand called Cumho, and the tire name was soulless, as in like lacking a soul. Who names these fucking things? Kumos Solus, SOLUS. I replaced them with Fredestein Sprint Classics, which are the tires that they sent that we talked about, whatever. Holy shit. And I don't mean like, wow, this car is different. This car is fucking transformed. And I don't know which part of it is shocks and springs.
Yeah, you did two variables at once. Naughty.
You got to drive this fucking thing. Like, first of all, it turns, and then it previously would turn a little bit, and then hork over, and then do this weird thing where the steering wheel turned to marshmallows in your hand, and you get sticky, and it was gross, and it was dangerously low levels of grip. I actually think that was those fucking Kumos. Now, you were in the car when I did the first exit ramp, and I'm like, okay, this is about it. And I take a really wide arc because there's a wall there, and I don't know what the hell's we did the work. Yep. Maybe a strut's going to fall out.
Oh, yeah.
And we were drunk. I'm kidding. No one drank. It turned and then turned more and then turned more. And I lifted and it tucked in, and it probably pulled fucking 0.87 of a G without a squeal from the tires.
And that's just from springs and shocks?
And then it was
tires.
composed. Remember, like the front end of that car was bang, boom, boom, like the shocks were completely blown the fuck out. Now it's probably 1.5 inches higher than it used to be.
Yep.
So it doesn't have this
very
like
saggy springs. Yeah. Well, it had saggy in the back too. It was
no, the brand news, the rear springs were brand new. Springs and shocks were brand new, but they left we don't think they were original. They were some aftermarket shock in there.
No, they were replaced. They had a 1994 date code on them. So they had been replaced at one point in time.
But probably only have 5,000 miles on them before we got the car, but blown to shit. And the springs had sagged to the point where the front of the car, it was full on face down, ass up.
Yeah.
Now it's perfectly level, which is fun when you're not a Rover.
Yes.
Jesus Christ, Nick. I'm trying to behave here. Shut up, Derek. No, it sits perfectly level. Now I understand how they successfully campaigned this car in touring car championships.
Mm-hmm. The front end on it is unbelievable. I didn't have the trust in the vehicle that you did in entering it. It's also not mine.
I had the trust in the seatbelt. It wasn't the vehicle.
But turning it in, it was next to no dead center. It's just immediate tuck in, no weight, but incredible.
But and it's a 2.8 turn lock to lock rack, which didn't exist on any other car in 1976.
The car that you don't own, that you don't own, has this like 2.4, 2.3,
and it's like 40 years newer.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll probably talk about that car next week. Yeah. Damn it. And I own it temporarily. I don't know. This is a story. But the Rover is fucking transformed. And I know part of that is at least the Fredesteins, because they don't tuck those fucking Kumos. That was the other thing. Those Kumos, when we bought them, had 400 miles on them. And we got in this car and then vibrated the entire way home for 3 days or 4 days.
How old were they?
New. They were like 6 months before we bought
6 months?
The car. Mm. And so it couldn't have been flat spotted. I pulled the tires off to have the wheels powder coated and refinished. And they put them back on and said everything balanced perfectly. And you couldn't see out of any of the mirrors in the car from all the shake. Gone. So apparently soulless cum whores aren't round.
But then how do they balance them?
Well, they can balance and weight, but then internally, if they're not, you could actually see we spun. You were there.
Was it
spun one of the wheels, and you could see there was probably a half an inch of run out on the good ones, 1 inch probably on the bad ones.
Yep.
So they balance weight wise, but they're not actually.
Road Force should tell you if wheel or tire is not round, but not most tire shops, even Road Force.
I don't know who did. Yeah. But I had them balanced twice, and they were worse and then worser. Right. And now the car is just glass smooth down the road. Transformed this car. So
it needs more power.
Funny you should say that. I was in a Zoom call a couple days ago, and with the Haggerty's Redline rebuild team, and they do these fucking amazing stop motion videos where you just see the engine sort of rebuild itself. And they're talking about whatever they're finishing up. I'm like, oh, what's next? You want a Rover V8? And David, the guy who does the rebuilds, like, actually, it's top of my list. And it's that in a VR6. Oh, I probably shouldn't say that. You didn't hear that from me. But whatever. And he's like, that's in the works. And I'm like, well, you want my Rover? And he's like, yeah, send it. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, just send the car. And I'm like, funny you should say that because just the other day I found a set of Vitesse new old stock heads right by the shop, like 4 hours away, but like right
Close
by
enough.
other people that I know. And he's like, all right, we'll just send the heads. So I'm like, well, you build me a 3.9 or a 4.3? Or he's like, why not a 4.6? Mm-hmm. And I said, because everything's going to break. But let's build like a 3.9 with Vitesse heads on it and a cam. Keep the torque level low, which means nothing else will break. And so...
Yeah, be careful with stroking it. So 3.9 won't...
Derek Tam-Scott.
Yes.
A lesson taught in every high school classroom.
Yes.
What's going to happen? You're going to grow hair on the palms of your hands?
Is that what happens? I thought it was blindness.
Oh,
Both. Straight to hell.
So the 4.2s, the displacement increases by increasing the stroke, and the 3.9s, it's by boring, and the 4.2s are a lot more coarse. So I would say go as far as you can, but be careful about lengthening stroke too much because there's a coarseness that gets introduced. And I suspect that will annoy you.
Yeah,
So
I want higher
I would
revving.
say yes, exactly, and that'll be bad for piston speeds if you stroke it. So
3.9, like
See
give
how
me
far-
42 to 1 compression. Basically,
yeah, see how far they can get without increasing the stroke.
Are these overbore engines as it is? Or
Yeah, I think
over
so.
square?
yeah, they are. And so, but my thought was a 3.9. So the Vitesse made 200 horsepower, 190 horsepower
Out of a 3.5.
3.5. And if I do those heads plus a mild cam out of a 3.9, I should be 220, 230, which almost doubles. And actually, according to ChatGPT, which I made the mistake of just asking, 250 with a port and polish and a mild cam and higher compression with aftermarket engine management should be no issue.
Yeah, 3.9 or 4.0.
So Holly's getting a call from me, and Edelbrock is getting a call from me because I want to do Edelbrock, Holly EFI, a cam, a 3.9 Vitesse heads, and double the power of the Rover, and then have like
So it's going to have a
6
pancake air filter on it?
Yes. Has
or
to.
velocity stacks.
Yeah. I think pancake air filter looks low rent on that engine. You have to do something that looks cooler.
To some degree, that's the point. It is a Rover SD one.
I know, but
I
I
would
think
love
the
for it to
factory
look
injected. I like the factory injected plenum. I think it looks cool. Or
I
the
would love
twin
a
SUs,
Vitesse.
which are at an angle, or the twin plenum Vitesse. Just don't. If you don't want it to look like a small block Chevy when you open the hood, in my opinion.
But how the hell am I going to do that if I
kind of
do an
is.
Edelbrock manifold?
Yeah.
I don't even know what I would
So you-
put on top of
So
it.
you have to come up with some kind of solution that doesn't look like a pancake.
I
in
love
my
how
opinion.
I'm all excited about like doubling the power, and you're like, make it look proper.
You just want it to. You're gonna want to look at the engine and admire it, and I think that interferes with it.
I kind of think more. I want to get into my little
Okay.
car and have it go.
Of which it needs.
It's
You can do all that.
Stupid.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Okay.
So I'm saying this on the podcast so that I can send this time coded link to everyone in the Haggerty video department and be like, hey, I've already promised you're going to build me a 220 horsepower. Hey Holly. Hey Edelbrock. Hey Rimmer Brothers. Hey anyone else? I need high
Well,
compression.
you might,
3.9.
heaven forbid, have to pay for something when you do that.
No. Yeah, fine, whatever.
These things may.
I'm not paying labor. I draw the line at labor. You guys want to make a video out of this?
Yeah, yeah.
I will.
Yes.
I will supply
Yeah.
pistons, a cam,
Heads.
and the heads. The heads are going to be expensive.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, makes sense.
But whatever. New old stock Vitesse heads? Come on.
Then we can put those Sprint Classics to work.
They're going to need it.
Yeah.
They're going to need it.
You
of
should
course.
subscribe to this tires instead of just buy them when you need them.
$80
You
a
have
month.
It's just a one.
yeah,
Monthly fee.
every 6 months a new set shows up.
The funny thing was we mentioned this on the Zoom, and I fully expect Anthony Esposito to be like, no, because he didn't want me to do the revelations on this car. He's like, no one's going to give a shit. Million views later, I think he got the message that, there are people who speak English who don't live in America who like this car. And he's like, oh, let's do a drag race, ultimate drag race replay show with it. And he's like, let's see, what can we race? And he starts calculating out like horsepower to weight. He's like, well, I think it'll do with this and whatever. And I'm like, who the fuck is going to give me a new drive shaft when it shatters or a new diff or a new transmission? Like, no. And he's like, well, you don't have to dump the clutch that many times.
You do.
Yeah, but you do, right? Exactly. Will you be there to tow me home in the Cayenne?
Yeah.
And we're back.
I'll bring the SP5. No, I'll tell you home with the K truck. You'll be good.
Okay.
No, good opportunities with that. I mean, that's the whole point of these old things. Like you can keep them as they are, exactly stock, or you can play with them.
I just want
make
to
them
plus
yours.
it.
Yeah.
I want it to look relatively stock, and I just want like
That's most important to me. You want the original spirit of the thing to be intact, Right, the personality needs to be preserved, and that's one of my objections with resto mod sometimes, is that you lose the personality of the original object.
I want a Vitesse. And the problem is, so there was 2 series of SD1s. There's the early car, there's US cars were the early Series 1. And then in 1982, they came out with a Series 2, which was a lot of functional upgrades like reversing the polarity. I love this. Reversing the polarity. You know that they developed a new system to dip these cars in rust proofing.
Yes.
And they ionized it so that the rust proofing primer would stick to the metal. But they hooked the wires up reversed so it repelled the rust proofing and then flaked right off and the cars rusted in the ground. So in 1982, when they switched factories, that's when someone was like, right, fuck, it's been the wrong way the whole time. Shit. So the 82 and later cars were not built at Sully Hill, which is the factory that was built for this car. They were built elsewhere, and they fixed a bunch of other shit like that. But they put this god-awful Range Rover gauge cluster on it. And I shouldn't say that, but it's just not the Ferrari.
It's 80s looking instead of 70s looking.
Well, it's not the exterior styling of the car was Ferrari inspired, and so is the dash. It's a fucking complete Ferrari ripoff. Looks like a Momo 3-spoke Ferrari wheel. Looks like Ferrari gauges in the US. They did get that later. It was available in Europe. But we had these I feel like I sit in this car, I'm in an oversized British shitbox Ferrari, weird knockoff thing. And the later cars just look 80s and wrong. And the Vitesses were all Series 2. And I would love to have a right-hand drive Vitesse, but I will not have that interior. And so my only choice, and this is a matter of, human
requirement,
rights,
yes, of course. Yes.
Is to make a Vitesse out of my car. And if I can make a Vitesse with 200 and some horsepower instead of 190, well, why the fuck wouldn't I?
But then you also have to move the steering wheel over to the right side.
Which you could do.
Right.
You can do.
In a matter of minutes.
Symmetrical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it has that third vent.
Oh, should I do that?
No.
Yes.
Do you get value out of it being right-hand drive?
I love right-hand drive shit.
It's hilarious.
It's stupid.
Go to the mailbox.
I find it inconvenient.
Go to the mailbox.
Drive through.
Overtaking is inconvenient.
Yeah, but I can overtake in the car right now with the current power level. I'm stuck
Okay, so you're going to make it
so
that you can never overtake in this car, because currently you can't overtake due to lack of power. In the future, you won't be able to overtake because you'll have no lines of sight.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll put 2 steering wheels, 2 gauge clusters.
Sure, yes, perfect. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Then you can do it like the garbage truck.
Right. Just jump back and forth, whichever.
Yes.
And then put a third one on the back so someone off the back of the SD1 can actually drive.
Like a fire truck.
Yeah. How about I don't do any of this shit and
you just get a motor.
200 horsepower and then probably have to upgrade the brakes.
Did we make it through your garage?
I don't remember. Probably. I'm going to say yes. It's uninteresting beyond that. I've had more interesting cars that I've sold that I no longer own.
Once you get the sandbar, you're not.
No, it's peak. Everything else is beneath it.
Not peak horsepower.
Though this is probably second place now because it's just so weird.
I think it's immensely cool.
Every single time it's on a lift, I laugh. Which the carbon fiber drive shaft.
It
has a
nuts.
carbon
Did you know this?
fiber drive shaft.
What?
Yes. So it's a 2-piece drive shaft, and the first portion of it's carbon fiber, so that when the engine and transmission exit the vehicle in a front end collision, it brakes quickly and allows the system to fall underneath the car.
Procon 10.
Yeah, it sends it under the car.
Part 2, the other thing that blew my mind.
This is Procon 11?
No, it's just 10.1 or something. Procon 10 is that system. Ingenious because PIAC.
The steering wheel column retractor.
It's on a pulley and a cable system so that as soon as the engine starts to move back, the steering wheel is pulled away and the seatbelt break every bone in your body. So it's pre-tensioner of the seatbelt moves. It's all done with a cable. So I'm sure once it rusts, that's really fucking.
It looks fresh.
On this one, yeah, it's California.
Yeah,
but yeah, you watch period road tests or crash tests of any of the cars with Procon 10. It's amazing. Because
why was this not more widely adopted?
Because airbags accomplished all the same shit without.
Which
plus the other thing is the engine is the furthest. I mean, it's in front of the grill on these cars, so it's the first thing that will get hit.
The airbags in these cars were not dual stage, so it was just everything or nothing.
Blow your brains out.
Right. So it's more common to remove them because in a fender bender you will be injured, and usually lean on Procon 10. Right.
So this does have Procon 10 for the U.S. market?
It does. Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's
awesome. They had Procon 10 on the back window on all these cars back in the day. Never knew one knew. Typical German branding. What the fuck does that mean? I don't know. But yeah, apparently they ditched it when airbags became mandatory. But you can see it's wild because you see the crash test, the slow motion footage, you always see the airbag inflate over a couple frames. You see that steering wheel get ripped the fuck out of the dummy's hand in one frame. Yeah. Like it's pretty violent. You can imagine it would dislocate shoulders if you're holding on.
Oh my God.
But cool idea. Dummy didn't smash its face into the steering wheel room.
Could you imagine if one of those cables came loose over time and started dragging on the ground and you just catch something? You're going down the highway 55, you hit one of those interchanges.
Well, and it breaks your shoulder blade and crushes your chest with the seatbelt. Because the pretensioner's on there too.
Oh.
It's just
I don't know how you would even handle that scenario. I feel like you'd just walk away. Like, that's it. You just handbrake up.
Yeah, goodbye.
Done.
Yeah. Whatever. Very cool. Nick Mercadante.
Yes.
You are a hero.
I'm not.
You're doing God's work for helping me
to
with
making
the rover.
Nevertheless.
For adding fun to the unfunnable.
To solving the inherent Audi problems over at 034.
There's much to do and more fun to have with it. Yes.
Well, I hope you come back on this very show with some other pile of shit understeering.
Next time I'll bring a present day and show you what can be done.
Okay. Yeah, let's get Derek in something really, really stupid fast and make him giggle.
Our RS5 did the quarter mile in 9.9 at 140, 0 to 60, 2.3. On the streets, like 2.7. That would be a fun one for you. Yeah.
I will bring an extra pair of trousers.
Yes.
I will bring Windex or something.
Yes. And it has different brake calipers on it, so it stops. The calipers that we make.
And rotors that are directional on both sides of the car?
Yes, exactly.
You guys are just fixing
Really
Audi one Audi at a time.
We're getting
fixing
after it.
Great. Join us again next week. It'll be the two of us without an Audi, but maybe with a Volkswagen product. Or not. I don't know.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for coming up. And go buy stuff from 034. They make really good shit.
Please. Thank you.
Yeah, I know this because I have an oversteering Golf.
It will continue.
Yeah, it's amazing.